What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals. We're here. We're lean. We're mean. I don't know what's going on. Thank you, Movie Meal patrons. Kimberly Karen, right off the top of the show, guys. We started a podcast talking about all things in the world of movies. It's on the Patreon. Go join that. It costs $1. $1, guys. $1. It's $1. Join it.
Just a
Some clip
dollar.
outs come out on Mondays. We'll talk about all stuff this week. We're going to be talking about Warner Brothers and the stupidity that is their Discovery new CEO,
Ooh,
whatever. That'll be a big topic. But we're here for Bullet
yeah.
Train review, non-spoiler. Let's get into it. Get some Moo Meals merch. Go do all that. I'm wearing some now. Kyle, what are your positives of the old Bullet Train? Brady Pitt fighting off people, a lot of actors. What were your
There's a lot of
thoughts?
actors.
A lot of actors.
That it was a lot of fun. I have been really looking forward
Yeah.
to this movie for this year. I'm glad that it finally came out. I felt like it was supposed to come out earlier this year, but it finally came out and I dug the heck out of it because it felt like with this director, David Leitch, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, he kind of felt like he took inspiration from some of Guy Ritchie's movies in some regards, but to the point where it added in his own flavor at the same time in terms of the action anyway. And I really enjoyed it because it felt like everyone from the acting standpoint was in on the premise, and I thought that the premise itself was very entertaining, or they made it very entertaining. I love these types of stories to where not only it's a whodunit type situation, but it's also in the confines of an area, and they did it very well within the bullet train um, setting that they were in. So it was very clever in how they were able to make it entertaining for how long the movie ended up being. But all of the actors I thought did a very good job in this movie. And it also had some twist to it that I thought ended up pretty well. I was wondering how everything was tying in all together, but they did a very good job in that regards too. So the action is very entertaining, it has very good comedic moments, and I just had a very good time of being able to both somehow take the movie seriously in terms of how or of how we learned of these characters and who they were and how they relate to each other, but also was able to have a good time with it as well. Was able to enjoy the comedy, but also the over the top antics that this movie really had, despite it almost initially feeling like it was going to be very grounded. But I thought they played well between those two worlds of being serious with its characters, but being over the top with its elements surrounding the characters. What about you, Alex?
I had a blast with this movie. I saw some of the reviews and it was real middle of the ground, maybe even a little lower than that. And I was like, really? And I just had a blast. There were some lines, some one liners that literally just had me dying laughing. Uh, the action was great. Is the premise a little wonky? Sure. But I had fun with it. It's to me, when I left the theater with a friend of mine, he said it reminded him of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. To me, it reminded me of
Mhm.
Free Fire, which is a great little movie. I think Free Fire might be a better movie, but I think it reminded me a lot of that. And it feels like, yes, we're not taking ourselves too seriously, but we also are. Like the
Mhm.
characters are true to who they are. You know what I mean? Like Brad
Yeah.
Pitt is this character, and he is going to be that character in its truest form, and it ends up making it funny because then the movie didn't feel like it was saying, like we're gonna be a serious movie and we're
Mhm.
serious like that. It didn't give that message off. It was we're gonna have fun, and I just had a blast. It was good to see some actors, even though they were in the movie a lot less or a lot more than I thought they would be, that I haven't seen in a little bit that were in this movie. I really like. There was a cameo by an actor that I will not name here, but I have been riding the line of if I can't decide if I love or can't stand this actor for about 9 years now, and the cameo worked. Every time I think it doesn't work, I'm back in the ball game. Uh, but yeah, I had a lot of fun. I do have two stories. One's a rant about the theater experience, and the other's a
Of
story
course.
about the theater experience. But let's get to your negatives first. What were your negatives?
Well,
Brad Pitt, right?
first
Oh,
off, on a personal level, Andrew Koji, who is in this movie, we love him here at Movie Meals. The guy, I feel
Love,
like
love him.
the the guy in terms of acting brought his A game, but man, did I feel like he was underutilized in the action department. Good lord, I wish they
Yes,
could have used him a little more.
I
Personal
thought the
thing
same
though, he
thing.
still was great in the movie, still did a great job with his role. But I was at the same time because we're such fans of Warrior and of him that I'm just like, man, you could have out of all the actors who are having action roles, you don't give it to this guy. Like, come on,
Yeah,
that's a
like there was a
mistake there.
moment where like he does some good action and solid action, but there was a moment where I was like,
Hmm.
let this man take on 50 guys at once right now because he can do
Yeah,
it. And that doesn't happen. It's not, and that's okay. But I was with you. The second the movie ended, I was like, why? We've got the best martial artists ever. Put him in the fight. Put him in a fight.
yeah.
God,
It was
Warrior's
probably like
so good.
halfway
Go
through the
watch
movie where
Warrior
I
on
was like,
HBO.
uh oh, before it's too
Go watch.
late.
Yeah, before they
Apparently,
cancel it. So go.
apparently.
Run. What
But
else? What were your other
yeah,
negatives?
that's a personal gripe that doesn't really affect the movie for me. But I do think that a criticism that I do want to address for this movie is that despite me having a blast with it, I do feel like it stretched its runtime and kind of overstayed its welcome to an extent. And I felt like that since this fast-paced movie still somehow like felt a little slower, especially towards the end, like maybe somehow this could have been trimmed down. Although there was a lot in this movie in terms of like how characters connect and like flashbacks and this and that were essential to the movie, so I'm not necessarily sure how that could have worked. Maybe somehow the movie could have, I don't know, somehow scaled back the number of characters, or maybe somehow it could have um, not used so many of the flashbacks or so much of the interconnectivity to where it could have ended up being a short runtime. I'm not too sure, but that's just like a thought that came to my head after seeing the movie, despite me still really enjoying it. But it also comes into play when the third act of the movie comes in. And for me, anyway, in terms of visuals, I could kind of see that the ending was a bit lackluster just because, for one thing, it felt like they weren't sure how to wrap up the movie. So everything kind of came to a collision of sorts, but not in like a very great way of how it's done, but also in terms of how the movie is shot and how some of the special effects look. It looked like they ran out of money towards the tail end of the movie, in my opinion. So the ending, while still very entertaining, was kind of a letdown, but also the runtime kind of came into play where I was feeling myself ready for the movie to be wrapped up anyway. So those two things are probably like the biggest takeaways I have. And once again, Andrew Koji, come on, let's give this guy more roles. Let's give him more action movies to do. But he still was great acting
Along
wise.
Along with him, I will also toss in Karen Fukuhara, I think is how you say her name, who's Kimiko from The Boys, who's in this movie as the
Yeah.
stewardess. And I, the
Hmm.
whole time, was like, where is she? Is an incredible fighter and she has a very small role. And I was like, what? Why is she? Like, she felt like an extra. I was like, get her into a martial arts moment. How is she not an insane character here? Um,
Sure.
my biggest
Yeah.
issue with the movie is the pacing and editing. It just comes down to that, and it is a fun movie. That's why I think this movie reminded me a lot of Free Fire. If you've seen that, and it's a shorter movie, it's very tight in its story, but similar kind of characters that do and don't take themselves so seriously that it ends up really working. It's funny.
Hmm.
Where this was a little bit more of a broad story. It does get a little CGI at the end, but I still had a blast with it. Here are my two stories. Okay, I'm
Go
going to
for it.
take you through the experience here.
Yeah.
So the days of you getting to the theater early, getting in line, getting your seat are gone, right? We pick our seats.
Hmm.
So I went and got our tickets for my buddy and I 2 days early. We were in a small theater and I got a nice theater, but they didn't even put the big new action movie in the big theater. They put it in one of the smaller theaters. But that theater probably holds 150 people, something like that. So I get it. And there's one dude I remember this. He was one dude in the very, very, very back way corner, like the one old guy. And this is exactly it. He was one old guy. You just wanted to go see a good movie, have a good night. And then there were
Hmm.
like two people kind of in the middle, a couple ahead of them. And I was like, well, this one guy's all alone in the back row. It looks like nobody's going to this movie. So I got two seats. I got 10 and 11. So I snagged those in the back about center, because you're never dead center. You're always just about center.
Hmm.
And we get there and I look at my ticket and I had seat 11, but I didn't look at the ticket I gave to our buddy. I didn't register in my brain. I didn't remember if I had 10 or 12 with 11. So I go all the way up to the top. I'm not paying attention because we walk in and I'm a little surprised because there's more people than I had originally thought were going to be there because it maybe had 25 total people in it.
Mhm.
So we get there. We missed maybe the first two previews because we walked. I live decently close. We wanted to walk and enjoy a little sunshine. So we go up to the top, and I'm not really registering where we're at, but I see 12, and in my brain just goes, oh, I must have had 11 and 12. So I sit in 12, not realizing that our buddy is going to sit in 13. He's not sitting in 11. He's sitting in 13 from the direction we came in. So the previews are about over. There's maybe one or two left, just after or just before Black Panther comes on, which was just incredible to see on the big screen. And so
Mhm.
this girl comes up. She was probably about our age, maybe a little younger. She comes up and she's kind of looking around and looks kind of weird. And I was like, oh crap, maybe I am in the wrong seat or whatever. And I look next to me and I'm like, oh, that's 11. So we might be in a wrong seat or something here. And so then she sits like a seat away from me. She goes all the way back around, goes a seat away from me. And then like her mom comes in and sits down, and they're not being quiet. They're very loudly like, no, mom, don't tell him. No, I'm going to tell him. Don't tell him. And they lean over. Her mom leans over and goes, you two are in our seats. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry or whatever. And my brain is working at as fast as it can right now. And it knows that they're right now in one of my seats. But we have nobody next to us other than this old guy who's about 10 seats down. So I just say, hey, let's just scoot down that way. So we scoot down that way. We're not in our seats now. And I never do this. I'm usually the guy who just sits in a seat. I just wasn't paying attention, wasn't registering. So then they sit in their actual assigned seats in 13 and 12. Now, if you remember, I bought 11 and 10. So
Mhm.
I'm like, wait a second, there's no way. So I go back to the app to one, double check that we're not in other people's seats. And so we're not. I look at that, but these two people, and this got me, bought the exact seats next to us in a theater that holds 150, and there was maybe 25 total people. Who
Mhm.
does that? Who does that? This is not Spider-Man. This isn't Star Wars. This isn't a packed house. Who buys tickets? They wanted to be center so bad that they would have sat next to my friend. So I am now very thankful that all this happened so we could be a few seats from them. Then it gets worse. Then they talk through the whole movie. They
Mhm.
talk through the whole movie. Oh, I know that actor. I know that act. What? Not only like they didn't even get a seat away, Kyle. They didn't even get like one seat away. They needed to be so dead center in the back that they didn't there were no one was directly in front of them. They
Mhm.
didn't sit there. So then this cheered me up a little bit actually. So then the movie's about 10-15 minutes in. They're talking.
Uh-huh.
And these four boys come up. I find out later because my friend is a former high school teacher at one of the high schools here. He tells me after the movie he recognized these guys, some of these kids, two of the four. Four high school kids come in and they sit in the row in front of us, but right on the end. And then maybe about 10 minutes after that, movie's just really getting in. Brad just gets on the train or something like that.
Mhm.
The woman walks up and she's like kind of by their row, by our row. And my brain goes, crap, we have to go move and sit in our correct seats next to these loudmouth wackos. And
Mhm.
she leans into these kids and I hear her go, can I see your ticket, please? I'm like, oh, dang. These boys got caught red handed. And they all show
Mhm.
their tickets and begrudgingly leave the theater. They were all under 17. And they
Yeah.
go to this. And you could hear her be like, you need to be in your own movie. And this girl looked their age. Like,
Mhm.
um, then two of the four come back into the theater. They snuck back in, sat down. No one bothered them the rest of the time. But yeah, that happened within the first 40 minutes of the movie. Insane. Don't look, if it's not a packed house and you're picking your seats, I'm sorry if you want a dead center and you're beat to the punch. At least get a seat in between people. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
it's one thing when it's a packed house. It wasn't a packed house. You didn't need to do
Mhm.
that. What is wrong with you people? Anyway,
Mhm.
Bullet Train was fun and a good time. Go check it out. Anything
I
else?
agree. Nope, that's about
All
it.
right.
I'm happy that this
Thanks to
movie
Movie Meal
yeah,
patrons. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're
I
happy
was
that the
just
movie
gonna
what?
say I was happy the movie stuck the landing despite it not landing for other people, which is a bummer, but I hope many other people enjoy it anyway.
Nice little fun movie to end the summer with.
Yeah,
Nice fun movie to end the
yeah.
summer with. Guys, what do you think of the movie? Comment below. Let us know. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And as always, thank you for watching, Mom.
See you guys.